Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Aero Veloce, and today we're going to be going over the best settings for the DD1 and DD2 on iRacing. These settings were created by Maurice Böschen, who is a Fanatec beta tester that makes excellent force feedback profiles. People who don't read the forums often miss these fantastic settings. Why are these settings so great? Well, every setting you can adjust in Fanalabs is tuned specifically to each car, from force feedback settings to the rev lights to the clutch bite points and even more. Most every relevant car in the game does have a profile, but there are a few that don't. You can always use the settings as a baseline and make a custom one for a car that might not have a profile. There are quite a few steps to get these settings set up properly, so let's jump right into it. Alright, so first up we need to download the profiles. These profiles are designed around the Beta 443 driver and Fanalabs version 1.65. So I highly recommend you get everything up to date to get the best experience. This is the Fanalabs forums post for the latest version 1.65. And if you scroll down just right past the main post, you'll see Maurice's post right here. And this is where you can download the profiles. So you'll just click the link right there. And I'll leave a link for this page in the description down below. Alright, so we got our profiles here. We're going to open them up. These are currently in a zipped folder, so we want to extract them. So we can hit extract all here, and then just extract to our downloads page. Alright, so we'll open up our unzipped version. And we'll go in here. We can see there's a couple different titles that he's made profiles for. We'll go to iRacing, and here are all our profiles for iRacing. Now, in order to get these imported into Fanalabs, we're going to want to open Fanalabs here. We're going to go up to the Game Profiles tab. Make sure we click on iRacing, and we're going to go to Import. We're going to go to our download page and locate those profiles. Open up again, iRacing, and then we'll just hold the Shift key, click on the top one, scroll all the way down, click on the bottom one, and then hit Open. And that's going to import all the files into the Fanalabs. You can see we have all the different cars right here now in Fanalabs. Now there's quite a few different settings we have to change for iRacing to get them all working properly as well. And if you go back to the iRacing Profiles folder, there's a README at the top, iRacing InGame Settings. And this is basically just a notepad telling you all these different settings we're going to have to change in order to get everything feeling properly. So here we have some settings to adjust in game, but first we're going to do the app INI file changes. So if you see here, we're going to go to our documents folder in iRacing to adjust those. So just open up documents here. We're going to click on documents, iRacing, and then the app file. And I already have it open here. So here we go. So here we're just going to make some changes to the INI files based on these recommendations. So the first one, display linear newton meters. What I'd like to do is I just hit Control F in the INI file. Then I'll type display lin, hit search, perfect, right here. So we want that to be 1, perfect. I have that set to 1. The next one we're going to want to do is steering bump stop. So I'll go ahead and once again I'll type steering bump, and then that brings me right down here. So we're gonna have to make an adjustment here. We want it set to 200. So I'm gonna delete that and type in 200. All right. Steering dampening factor. So steering dampening factor, we want this set to 0.05. 0.05. I have that set already. Steering dampening max percent, that's actually the one right below, 0. Have that one set to 0. Steering dampening parked max percent, we want that set to 0.2. Steering force feedback smooth, we want that set to 1. And the last one here, steering force parked at 0.5, and then we have it at 0.5. So I had most of the settings changed. So it looks like maybe my bump stop got adjusted to 180 for whatever reason. I just set that back to 200. And then we're just going to exit and make sure we hit save. Now we're done with the app INI file changes. Now we can do the in-game changes. All right, so now we're in game. We're gonna go to the options, and then we'll open up the notepad again. So let's see here. So And then we're just gonna copy these settings, enable force feedback. Obviously we're gonna want that one checked. Use linear mode, checked. Reduce force when parked, check. Max force and wheel force, this is the first and second number on the profile name. So if we go back to Fanalabs here, and you'll see next to the name of each profile, there's a first and second number. So we have 60 and then 19 newton meters, 60 and 16, 40 and 17. Basically, you're just gonna pick the car that you're currently using. So in this case, I'm using the old 488 GT3, and we can see here it's 66 and 15. So if I go back to iRacing, I set the max force to 66 and then the wheel force to 15 newton meters. And if you see strength instead of force, you can just click on it and that'll change the value. Now for each car, when you're adjusting the max and minimum forces, you also want to make sure you have this checked down here. Use custom controls for this car. That way it'll save those values so you don't have to change them every time you switch cars. So for the Ferrari, every time I go into it, it'll be at the proper values that the Fanalabs profile recalls for. And then if I switch to like the MX-5 or something, and I have that custom controls, that'll be set to its proper profiles as well. Although another thing to note is if you change anything else, like any of your steering wheel buttons or button box or anything like that, those will be specific to each car. So you might want to do your global settings first, then check the custom settings for each car, and then set your force feedback values. And then so back to our notepad, we're gonna have damping and minimum force at 0%. I would also make sure you don't have any dead zone, just take the dead zone off. If you're using a DD1, make sure to multiply your force feedback value for the Fanatec wheelbase itself by 1.25. These profiles are based off of DD2, so if we're using overall force feedback strength of 60% on a DD2, if you're using a DD1, you would multiply that 60% by 1.25, which I believe is about 75% or something like that. And every single profile is different in the force feedback percentages. 70% on this car, 65. I've seen some that are 80%. So you'll just always multiply that number by 1.25, and then you could just resave the profile and it'll override the pre-existing setting. One thing that I like to change personally is the brake force. So I'll go back into the tuning menu. After I loaded a profile, I'll typically bump it up to about 90%. Then I'll go back and I'll resave the profile, and that way I'll keep my settings. Well, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoy these profiles as much as I do. Go give some thanks to Maurice on the forums. He put a lot of work into these profiles. And if you enjoyed this video, I greatly appreciate a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see some more sim racing content. Since Maurice doesn't provide any profiles for the original Assetto Corsa, I'm currently spending many hours creating custom profiles for many of the cars myself, so stay tuned for that. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.